And I think that's what's really interesting about kind of getting more experience in this space is the amount of fear involved is just like not there. Like it just goes down, right? As you build self-efficacy in any area. Of course, like that goes down, but I think it's really helped me like believe in myself in a way that just yeah, has been growing so much over time.
Hello, and welcome to the Master the Media podcast. I'm your host, Amy Gorin, and this is episode 29. I have a special guest today with us, Kaytee Hadley. Welcome, Kaytee.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Thanks for being here. Kaytee is not only a Master of the Media student and Master of the Media's community manager, she's also an amazing media dietitian, and she runs a private practice with multiple dietitians specializing in gut health.
Yes, lots of evolving, exciting, moving parts and pieces that all seem different, but they somehow connect.
I know, and it's like the life of no day is ever the same, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Well, I gave your very short and sweet intro, but if there's, if you want to kind of just tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so like you said, I have a private practice, which is now a group practice, very exciting. A group practice specializing in gut health. And we accept insurance and we're growing and expanding. We're in the middle of a big rebrand, which I don't know if I told you. So that's
No, that's
coming
really
down the
exciting.
pipeline as well. Yeah. And I was doing the math before we jumped on this call and I was like, how many months ago? Like how long have I been doing media work? And it's just hit the 2 year mark.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah.
I'm always like, I always, in my mind, it's like, it feels like you've been with Master of the Media for like a blip, and then it also feels like it's so long. So,
Yeah. I kept thinking in my head, like, oh, like 1.5 years. And I was like, no, it's going to be 2.5 soon since I originally joined. So, yeah, about 2 years doing media work. And what's so interesting, kind of like thinking about the private practice, is when I first kind of got into, master the media and doing this line of, of work, I was thinking of them as very separate, my private practice versus the media side. And it feels like they're really coming together and melding in a really exciting way. And so it's yeah, just
yeah,
continuing that evolution.
I love that for you. I remember when you were like, I don't even know when this was, but we had the conversation of you're like, well, this is my niche for my private practice, and this is my niche for media. And I was like, no, 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 they need to be the same. And
Yeah, yeah. And it's really interesting because in my private practice, I specialize in gut health, like you said, but I do have, obviously, like everyone, other interests. I'm not just one note. And so, one of those interests is plant-based nutrition, but it's not something I talk about broadly. And so a lot of my partnerships have been more in plant-based nutrition, which was really exciting because it's an area that I'm so passionate about that I don't really get to kind of explore or have chosen not to really explore from more of a professional capacity. So I've been able to add that in, but then also obviously gut health companies as well. And so my niche is both the gut health for media
yeah,
and private practice. But the plant-based nutrition partnerships have just organically happened without me like showing up as that way, without that being my niche, just having those, real conversations with people and having that passion come through. And that was something I was afraid of. I was like, oh, if all I do is gut, can I talk about these other things I'm passionate about? And you were like, yes, Kaytee. And like, of
yeah.
course you
It's
know
like, yeah,
that.
as humans, as professionals, we are more than one thing. We can be more than one thing.
Yes, yes, yes.
So tell us about your journey. Like what were you doing before you started with media work? How did you decide that you wanted to step into this world of being a media dietitian? How have things changed for you since then? That's a lot of
Oh my
props.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. When you say what's changed, so much has changed. So, at the time that I decided to join Master Media and get into media work, I had two different businesses at the time. I had my private practice and I had like an educational business where I had a partner, and I had decided to step away from that and close that down and really focus on private practice. But at the same time, I knew I didn't want to do only that for various reasons that we don't have to get into. And one of the reasons that I do want to mention is finances. Like, I didn't want to be financially stuck in a private practice model. I wanted to have these different streams of income. It just felt like the smart thing to do. And so when I joined Master the Media, I honestly didn't think I was gonna like media work, which is like such a funny like business like type A decision. Like, okay, this makes sense. I'm probably going to hate it, but here we go. And that's not at all what happened. I love it. And that happened pretty quickly. So, I signed up for Mass Media program and I love to learn. So, like, I really liked going through the program. It was really interesting. And, as you know, like partnerships came together pretty quickly. And it was that's always nice, right? When you dip your toes in something, you're like, oh, I'm kind of good at this and I enjoy it. And so that first year doing media work, I just really like dove headfirst into it. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to make this time, energy, like money investment, like it's got to pay off. So I really went into it just head first. And during that first year, made close to $100,000 doing it really part time. I mean, I was max maybe doing, when I had a bunch of partnerships going, it was maybe doing up to 20 hours a week.
Which is really
It was
incredible.
busy.
And I mean, so you say, about $100,000, but that's just from your media and brand work. Like you
Yeah.
still had your whole other business that you were making
Yes.
revenue from,
Yes. 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 I still have my private practice.
which is
Yeah.
wild. I mean,
Yeah.
that's that's a lot of money.
I did not, when I joined the program, I was like, well, hopefully, like, I make my money back. And then it was like, obviously, a lot more. um, so, yeah. And then going into the second year, so just wrapped up second, year doing media work. And I made the decision to, because the ball was rolling like so smoothly with brand work, I was like, okay, I'm actually going to pull back a little bit so that I can grow my private practice because I have this vision of I want to accept interns, I want to have a group practice so that that business is stable and I'm more of, right, the business owner and only doing little bits of time as the clinician. So that I can do more brand work and do my PhD and all these other things that I want to do. So I pulled back on brand work. I really didn't pursue a lot of brand partnerships, but I had, brands coming to me and continuing with partnerships that were already existing. And so I really did maybe 5 to 10 hours a week doing brand work last year. Still made about $50,000 and my private practice exploded during that time. And so now going into my third year, I'm like, okay, now what are we going to do here? And, I have all these plans in place, but it's been so interesting, like thinking about how each year has looked different and how brand work I've been able to kind of mold it and shape it in exactly the role that I wanted it to play for that period of time in my life.
Yeah, and I think that's the beautiful thing about like all of this. It can ebb and flow as much as you want it to. Um, how, I mean, you say your private practice has exploded. Like, how has the median work and brand work played into that? Like, as far as like the referrals coming your way from that?
Yeah, good question. So I would say it's kind of an indirect way, but also a very strong link. So I have had people who have, seen me on TV or, seen my media interviews, oh, I saw you in Time magazine. So, or I saw you on my local, NBC. But more of it, I think, is actually around like my confidence and how I show up in the media. So, for example, like I never did social media. And even when I joined Master of the Media, I was like, I don't think like this is something I want to do. But I was like, as I kind of went through this, I decided, you know what, I am going to lean into this more. And so I started leaning into social media more in the last year. And that has actually been huge for my private practice. And I would have never been comfortable on camera without getting into this sort of broader media work and brand partnerships. Like one of my partnerships, I was doing like TikTok ads. And I was like, so I just had to like learn how to do it because I'm like, okay, like sign me up. Like this company is interested. They're like, we want you to be our primary spokesperson. Like, can you do TikTok ads? Like, can you fly out? Can we film all these videos? And I was like, all right, like, I guess I'm gonna figure this out. Like, it's really just like my own, like, fear getting in the way, right? So I did it, and, all these other ways that kind of forced me to get outside of my comfort zone helped me realize that I actually enjoy it and I'm pretty good at it. And so a lot of people have now found me like online through those, through social media. Um, and then also obviously just having like the sort of clout to be able to say and like see on my website, like as seen in all these different ways, and like huge brands that people know and love, that I've been an advisor or consultant. Like, I think it just really adds to the overall trust that people have, as well as like visibility.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many reasons I love what you just said, but I think, I mean, it is so true. Like when you're like, oh, okay, this major media outlet or this TV station, like they are featuring me as the expert, so of course I have this authority, and then you show up as this really confident version of yourself, which you know should have always been, but like now you really are, and then people are attracted to that. It makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like that sort of attraction. And I think there is an element of being able to show up a little bit more like authentically as me and my values and who I am. And I think that helps people know if it's the right fit. Like 99% of people who reach out to me in my private practice are a great fit to work with, because I think they already have a good understanding. When you're doing, like, this is one of like the foundational things that you teach, like when you're showing up in the media, like learning how to speak to people in ways that are so easy to understand. They're so relatable. And I think it just makes like me as a clinician more approachable, showing up in that kind of a setting and speaking in that way versus like clinical white coat, like
Oh,
who wants
totally.
that?
And you guys, by the way, Kaytee is my husband's dietitian, and he literally quotes Kaytee to me. He's like, "Oh, Kaytee said this. Kaytee said this." So I love it.
You're like, that I'm a dietitian too,
I've like,
right?
I decided a long time ago not to be like, I might have mentioned that like 2 or 3 years ago, but like, however Kaytee said it, like you remember it now. So like, yay. Like fiber makes you feel really full when you pair it with XRP. Awesome.
That's amazing. I love this like like cycle now that's happening. But yes, speaking in sound bites, being
Yes.
approachable. And I think that's like when I was like doing this whole, rebrand for the practice, my the woman I hired to do it all, like one of the things she asked was like, what's like one or two words that you would use that you want someone to like feel or see you as. And one of the first words that came to mind was approachable. And I think that as healthcare providers, like being approachable and making that information more accessible is so important and so, so needed. And to be honest, I didn't really, before I started doing this kind of work, I don't think I really saw the deep value that it brings. And now I'm such a huge like advocate for it, towards other healthcare professionals. Like, we should be online. We should have social media. Like, we should be talking to outlets. We should be advising brands. Like, we should be doing these things, because whether we like it or not, people, that's where they go to find their information. And we need to show up with this information that they can understand and then they can implement in that kind of way, versus, you know, you have a lot of people sort of in the wellness culture space that are talking about a lot of things that aren't evidence based. And so we got to show up to combat that.
1,000%. And I mean, I was just thinking about like while you're saying that, within Master the Media right now, like we have the best mix of Master the Media students. I mean, we have like amazing dietitians, amazing physicians, and there's in our coaching calls, like oftentimes like we're sharing like those personal health tips. And I think just even sharing those in an approachable way is just really nice to have that, in a community sense.
100%. In the community, and I always say this to people like when people ask me about my experience in Master of the Media, is the community that I have found there within Master of the Media, but also just within like the media healthcare provider like space. If I'm being honest, a lot of spaces that I've been in previously with dietitians, I don't think this is a secret, right? Like, it's pretty well known. Dietitians can be, sometimes have a little bit of a tune, not always the most accepting people. And I just hadn't really found a space, like I didn't really have many dietitian friends even. And now being in this space, I've just found so much support, and it's just it's so much lifting up versus tearing each other down, and it's a respect of different values and beliefs. I've worked with brands that I know other dietitians wouldn't work with, and vice versa, and that's okay. And I think when we can come to the table, with our and honor our values and do what we are each individually aligned with, and have respect for the other person, and be able to like have a dialogue if that's necessary or wanted, it's very different than going online and tearing each other down.
1,000%. And I think it's, it's like in Master the Media, it's funny, like something you said a couple of minutes ago about like, what are you putting out into the world? Like, what are you trying to attract? And so for me, the person, like my avatar, my ideal client is like someone who has an abundance mindset, who wants to help their peers, who isn't going to be like jealous that someone else got an opportunity. They're going to be excited for them and build each other up. And like that is exactly what our community is. But it's like it's like whatever you put out there is who you attract. And
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Yeah. And I think that's the same for partnerships as well, right? Like aligning with companies that do have very similar values in terms of how they speak, or in terms of how they like approach relationships and approach the space of health, because right now there's a lot of controversy
A
going
lot.
on. Yeah, it's a little bit nasty online sometimes. So it's nice to be able to lift up other providers in this space, other healthcare experts, and also brands that are aligned with the same values. And sort of like the way I see it, it's like what is like that phrase of like the sum like is like greater than the parts or whatever. You know what I mean? Like we're having a bigger impact when we
Yes.
partner together. That's
Yes.
that.
And it's interesting because, so inside Master the Media, obviously we teach you how to pursue brand partnerships, but we also bring them directly to our students. And there's been times like one of the partnerships that, they were like, hey, we want to work with a variety of Master the Media experts. And I remember one of our students saying like, it's a plant-based product, it's in my niche, but I don't know because it's not something, my family and I eat all the time because of X, Y, and Z reasons. And I was like, you should go for it because this is your opportunity to give that insight and information to the brand of, hey, maybe you want to rethink this ingredient. And guess what? She did. And fast forward like a few months later, and they actually changed their product formulation to what she had recommended. And all that to say, like, we all have thoughts about what's going on right now in the nutrition space. So maybe, sharing that information with the brands,
Yeah.
that either you love and you want to be a forward-facing spokesperson, or you think that they need your insights to retool their ingredients, and maybe you're a behind-the-scenes consultant. But there's that space for you to help them evolve, and a lot of these brands just really, really do want those insights.
100%. There was a company that I worked with who I wasn't fully aligned with their messaging, but they were really that's what they wanted support with. And when I sort of explained, like, you guys have evidence-based ingredients. I love the product, but the way you're speaking about it could be improved to be more aligned and be more, I almost want to use the word like true. Again, they weren't trying to be deceitful, and they weren't being deceitful, but it it
But
it,
they don't
it could.
always know, like,
Yes.
do you say, like this product may versus it
Right.
can, like,
Exactly.
and who the heck who's not a clinician would even know the
Totally.
differences between those two
Totally.
words?
Totally. Right? Like they were using like AI to help like analyze research studies. And it's like, okay, it's a good start, but like, how can we make this better? We're trying. We just
With a
need some more
human,
support. Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
What have been some of your favorite partnerships?
That was one of them, that particular one. Working with that supplement company was really fun and collaborative, and they were very open to my thoughts and recommendations, and they just thought I was awesome. And it was one of my earlier ones where I felt so valued in a way that I just like hadn't before. Like you just don't really feel that with like in the way that we show up in other ways. Like, yes, obviously I feel valued from a clinical perspective with some of my patients, but like to be able to like kind of say things that feel obvious to me and have a company be like, oh my gosh, that is so smart. You're amazing. Like, we want to implement that. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh man, this is so nice.
Like you're
Like,
not in
you
a
guys are
hospital.
awesome
You're not
too.
in
Like,
a
oh my gosh.
hospital where someone's being like, "Oh, you spent too much time with the patient helping them." Like it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're awesome."
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Exactly. And that one kind of, pushed me out of my comfort zone. Like I said, like, I did videos in a way that I'd never done. And, we did like an in-person shoot, which was so fun. They had like professional photographer where I did all these photos with the product and we did filming content together and in the studio. And it was really nice to like get to know the founder of that company and everything. So that was definitely a favorite. Um, there was a food company, a food brand that I have been just such a stan for the last, I don't know, at least when did they launch? Like 10 years ago. Like one of my dream brands. And that was one of the opportunities I got through Master of the Media. And
Do you
that
mind
was,
sharing which one that is?
yeah, so Impossible Foods.
Yeah.
Um, so I eat a plant-based diet um and but I mean, I've just always thought Impossible Foods was so incredible for just how they've been paving the way forward for the plant-based,
Totally.
meat industry. And their focus on sustainability and environmental impacts, like that's a huge, huge reason for me. And how do you marry that with health? And they were launching for the first time talking about nutrition in their product versus just the environmental impact. And to be kind of on the ground floor of that and to be one of their like nutrition advisors early on was truly a dream come true. And the people on their team, I mean, they are so incredible.
They
Like
are.
every conference and expo we go to, I'm like, are you going to be there? Like, we need to meet up. Like, I feel like I'm friends with these people, even though we're not working together right now. We worked together for like close to 2 years. And again, like the relationship building, but that was so crazy because that was one of, again, like even still, I've only been in this space for 2 years, and to be able to work with some of these companies so early on, people always ask me that, like in the program, or just people who are kind of interested in media work, like how long am I going to have to be in it? Like, why would a company hire me versus someone else? I don't have any experience. And it's like, because you're you, because it's not just about your experience, it's about your personality and your values and just like that, you know, soul, so to speak, that you bring that's going to be
Yes.
unique and it's going to resonate.
There is because when we enroll new students in Master of the Media, they fill out this form and they don't always fill it out, but when they do, like I love to read like the why of why they joined. And someone who recently joined, she said like she had previously been working with a marketing agency, and they basically told her to conform and like be generic and to
Mm.
be less like vocal and she just was afraid to be herself. And like she was joining Master of the Media because she wanted to lean into who she actually is, because guess what, that attracts everything. It attracts media, it attracts brands. And like now that she's with us, I think it's been like 2 months and she's landed like close to $5,000 in brand partnerships. And I'm like, yes, being you, being authentic, like
Yeah,
trusting your instincts
yeah,
about who you are, like it all works.
100%. And I mean, like it's so obvious. Like when you say it, it's like feels obvious, like, oh, show up authentically as you. But like it can be really difficult to do that. Um,
Yeah, I
and
mean, think about like high school. It's like it's like we go through all these phases of life where it's not easy, and then we're
yeah,
like magically adults and it's like be you, and you're like,
yeah,
well, I just spent
yeah,
like this many years figuring out who I am. And anyway, but yes, lean into that, like those authentic pieces of you.
100%. 100%. One other partnership I'll just bring up, and this is sort of like a broad category, but one thing I really enjoyed is working with commodity boards or just like general sort of like minimally processed whole food products, like, um, this company makes rice. And it's like, how do we talk to people about like rice, Like it's not even about the brand, it's about the food category. I've been working with a company where they specialize in making and processing and selling teff. And they're like, we don't even care if you mention our product of teff. Like, we just want more people to know about this amazing whole grain. And it's like, that's so
It is.
awesome.
It's like you're spreading, you're educating people like there's more grains than just wheat.
Yeah, like I partnered with the sorghum board for a few different we did a few different things together, but one of them was TV. I literally got paid to go on TV and talk about like a whole grain, like no brands, just like whole grains. And it's like, man, if this isn't what it's like, like to be a media dietitian, like I don't know what is. It's really great to be able to um like work with brands in many different spaces that all are true. I think like when things are really polarized right now, it's like, oh, all you can eat is whole foods and minimally processed, or oh, this is bad, or this is bad, right? Like everything is bad and everything is
I
restriction,
hate the good and bad
restriction.
language.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, how can we talk about food in a way that's more nuanced and individualized and have more of a conversation versus just sensationalizing everything? Why and how is it that you can eat sorghum and teff, but also impossible foods, right? Like and people just having more information so that they can better understand what works for me, what works for my lifestyle, what works for my values and beliefs and my unique health.
Yeah, and and we could go into like a whole tangent on like I have so much to say on this topic, but you mentioned TV, and I know that's something that definitely like I think you started doing for the first time when you joined Master the Media, and then you ended up getting like what was it, a monthly segment on your local TV station. So tell us
Yeah.
about that. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, so I'd never done TV, never really thought about it. One thing I really liked about the program, Master of the Media program, going through it was just kind of the encouragement to explore different ways and areas that you can work in the media. And so obviously TV was one of those aspects. And I was like, like what the hell, like let's give it a try. And so I followed like the tips and tricks and the worksheet on pitching, and I think I only pitched two segments, and the second one got picked up. And after that first segment they were like, we'd love to have you back, and I was like, awesome. And then after the second one they were like, what do you think about like making this a regular thing? And so I think I did 15 segments in a year.
Wow.
Um, and some of them were sponsored with brands, some of them were about my practice, but overall, again, just kind of getting to share what's, unique and authentic about, my views or approach, and touching on relevant topics. And now that I'm back in LA, a major city with a major market, for TV, I'm really excited to continue to expand here. Because yeah, it's not something I thought I would be into, but I actually really, really like it.
So fun. And I was the same. Like the first time I tried, a mock TV thing was like in journalism school. And I was like, no, because it wasn't real. So like there was no adrenaline. Like, but then the first time you do it and you're like, oh, like we get one take. I mean, sometimes you get more than that, but it's like these 3 minutes are the 3 minutes that are going on air. And so like you're on, and then you're like, oh my gosh, that was so amazing.
Yeah, yeah. It is like the first few times were such a rush and so exciting. And then, once you hit like 10, it's like, all right, another day, like here we go. Not that it's not enjoyable, but it's not scary. And I think that's what's really interesting about kind of getting more experience in this space is the amount of fear involved is just like not there. Like it just goes down, right? As you build self-efficacy in any area. Of course, like that goes down, but I think it's really helped me like believe in myself in a way that just has been growing so much over time. And like having that confidence of like, okay, if this is something I want to do, if I feel passionate about something, it's not a matter of like, ooh, can I do it? It's just like, how am I going to do it? You
Or
know?
when, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
um you mentioned that some of the segments that you did were sponsored. Let's talk a little bit about like how did that work for the station that you were doing segments with? Like, did you know how did you go about reaching out to the brands to get those segments sponsored?
Yeah, so after going on a few times, I asked the station, would it be okay if I did some of these, sponsored? And they said, yeah, no problem. And I was like, is there, station fee? And they were like, don't worry about it. Because I'd already built that relationship. So it was
Yeah.
like, awesome. So I approached a few different, companies that I was already talking with and liked or was working with in other ways and was like, hey, is this of interest? I was in Richmond at the time. The Richmond market wasn't appeal to everyone, but it was to a few of them. So we did segments that way. And then another one came because they saw an interview that I did in a media outlet. I think it was Good Housekeeping. And so the company had reached out and they were like, hey, we saw this interview you did. We're interested in partnering together. Like, we're wanting to reach consumers broadly speaking, what can you help us with? And so we decided on written media interviews and TV. And so that one was just one of those ones that feels so aligned that just kind of fell into my lap. And I was like, oh, that was easy and awesome.
And that's literally the power of the media. Like, you got featured in the media, a brand
Yeah.
saw it, they
Yeah.
came to you, and you had a
Yeah.
partnership.
And now, again, now that I'm in LA and having a lot of conversations for, 2026, I couldn't even tell you how many brands I'm talking with right now who are like, we're so excited you're back in LA. Like, we really want to get into this market. Like, let's talk. So it just kind of comes together.
I mean, that's literally like why this world is so fun. Let's talk a little bit about, because you have a lot going on, Kaytee. Like, you are not only like, you're a media dietitian, you're a brand spokesperson, you are a media coach and community manager for Master the Media, you have a private practice. Like, how does this all work? 'Cause I think a lot of people come into the Master the Media doors and they're like, I'm doing 500 things. And I'm like, that is
Yeah.
literally who we attract, because we're all like, I created all of this because I got bored. And I think like other people want a different day every day. But it's like, of course, we also want structure and, you know, low stress. So like, tell us a little bit about like balancing and juggling everything.
Well, there's a few things that I feel like I've learned that it's obvious advice, but you have to live it to really take it to heart. A few things that have really helped in terms of balance. One is having the right support in place. Like, people have asked me, like, well, okay, master the media, like, can't I just learn how to do this on my own? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But, like, how much time and energy and building connections and relationship, like, you're going into this completely cold. And so for me, one of the things that's been really helpful in terms of like balancing my day to day is how can I learn from people who have already done this? Like, I don't need to recreate the wheel, and being willing to invest that time, energy, money into learning from others versus just trying to learn it myself has been huge, right? Like having you as a mentor and, other people that I've met through this community has been really important. Honestly, I don't know how long it would have taken. Like, I can't even imagine, like, how long would it have taken me to get here with media work if I hadn't done that? Like, I don't know if I ever would have, honestly, because I just don't have the time for it, to learn it all on my own. So that's been big, like having mentors, people that I can ask questions to and learn from. To that end, also like hiring and having support and not, I'm, I'm, I'm such a perfectionist,
Oh,
and
aren't we
like,
all?
and it really can work against us, right? And like being willing to let go a little bit, really learn how to delegate has been huge, huge. Thinking about the things like, what can I teach someone else, or what's another skill set that someone can bring that I don't have, so that I can focus on only the things that I can do, right? If I'm going to be a spokesperson for a company and show up for them and be on camera, like no one else can do that because they're literally hiring me because they want me in my face and who, right? Like only I can do that. So how can I delegate? So delegating's been huge. Um, What else? I tend to have certain days now. I've kind of found this workflow where Mondays and Fridays are like my media and admin days, and Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are like my patient time. And I've become very, very rigid about that, where like I'm not flexible on it. Like in having that protection for myself, because otherwise it's just too much to balance mentally.
I love that. And I mean, like, and I will say like that changes a little bit like in every era of like new season of life. Like right now, I'm a mom and I have like, okay, these are my hard and fast childcare hours. And guess what? Sometimes the childcare gets canceled, but it's like then you have to just be even more protective about your time. And I think that's a huge one. But I love what you said about like the delegation, because that's something we end up spending a lot of time in Master the Media doing coaching on mindset, including like, you know, my instincts and yours and a lot of people, you know, it's that perfectionist mindset, which totally works against you, because it's like, you know, if you spend weeks and weeks perfecting a pitch that you never send out because you feel like it's not perfect, like you're not going to get a yes, but you might as well put it out there, put out the imperfect version. That I'm always like, your imperfect version could be someone else's 200%, you know, version. And then anyway, that's how it all works, right? You know.
And it feels like a muscle almost. Like you kind of have to work it a little bit and like it's uncomfortable. It's a little bit painful at first, right? It's like and we hear this on the coaching calls all the time. People are like, "Oh, I wrote up this pitch and like I'm afraid to send it." And I'm like, it's not ever going to be perfect. You can fine tune it and tweak it every day for the rest of your life and you're always going to like it's at some point you have to flex that muscle and be like, "This is good and I'm just gonna do it." And it gets easier and easier. Otherwise, you just stall out.
Yeah, and it's like we have to all accept like we are humans. Humans make mistakes. That is literally, you know, there's human something called human error for a reason. And it's like literally I spent like the last like 5 or 6 weeks like making all these automations and active campaign, which is what we send out our marketing through. And yesterday, like I realized I made this massive mistake where like I don't even know how many people like received like 20 emails at once. And like me, like 5 years ago would have been like crying about this. And I was like, okay, like brush it off. Like, you know, maybe send an apology email to them. Like, you know, if they love Master the Media, they'll be really excited to get 20 emails all at once.
Can I tell you like a memory that's burned in my brain with you and this topic? Okay. I don't know how long ago. This must have been like earlier. This must have been like a year ago. And I had made what I thought was a mistake, and I was really within like the master of the media, and I was really like I felt really bad about it. Like it was an honest mistake. I didn't mean to anyway. There was like some kind of miscommunication. And I was like, oh, I gotta talk to Amy about this. Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
but it took me a minute. I was like, because it's always when you even brought this up originally, and I was like, this is so not a big deal, Katie. Like, I thought you were gonna like call me and tell me something like actually horrible.
Yeah. So I had texted her. I was like, hey, Amy, like, and I was at a conference. So that, and you knew I was at the conference, and I texted her, I was like, hey, like, do you have time to talk
And I
today? And
was
she's
like,
like,
oh my gosh, is Katie quitting? Is she like moving to Argentina? Like, I don't know.
and you were like, yeah. And then I remember calling you and we were like, hey, how's it going? You were like, good. Like, how are you? And I was like, good. And it was like, we're gonna like tell you we're waiting. And I was like, okay, it's like this thing happened. Like, I'm really sorry. Like, I didn't mean for it to come off that way. Like, I think what I said was like misinterpreted. And you were like, oh, I thought you were gonna call me with a real problem. And I like my whole body like relaxed. And I think about that all the time. Sometimes I think in my head, like, would Amy consider this a real problem? And you're like, it's no big deal. Like, if you want to like say this thing to like correct it, but like I'm not stressed about it. Like, you had good intentions. Like, it's not a big deal. And I was like, man, this is so nice. But I really appreciate like that like mindset that you bring because I think it is easy to get caught up in like again, like the perfection and like the little things that can prevent us from moving forward. I mean, even right now, it's like, I just hired 2 employees. My first time having proper employees, not independent contractors. I'm like growing into this group practice and like I have so much anxiety about it because it's like so new and it's like so much paperwork and all these legal things with the CPA and the attorney and this and that and the paperwork and the tax. And I'm like, I don't, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like, I might not really know what I'm doing, but I think I know enough for where I'm at right now. And like, that's okay. And like having that too, like going into media work of like, I don't have to know everything, but like, what do I need to know right now? And like, how can I show up as my best just in this thing in this moment to
Yes.
take the next step forward?
And it's like, I think that's actually all you, it's like, and in life too, because like I have a business coach, like I'm like a huge proponent of like everyone should get coached, like even coaches. But like when we have people come into Master the Media and they're like, I've never done a media interview, like, I feel like I might be being thrown to the wolves. And we're like, well, like we literally have a protocol for that. We're like, we're going to hold your hand. We're going to like tell you how to do this. We're going to review your first pitch. You're going to like, you're never going to be there alone. And I think just knowing that you're not alone is kind of like the biggest part of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like you can only be as prepared as you are in the moment without the experience, right? Like we gain experience as we do things, but there's no way to like know all of that without going through it. And that can feel uncomfortable at first, but like you still have to take that first step, you know?
1,000%. So what's next for you? Like now that you're in this new chapter, you just moved to Los Angeles, you just hired employees, like what do you want to do next?
All right. For 2026, what am I doing? Well, I'm going to be taking a bit of a step back from my clinical role and giving all of these new patients to my amazing dietitians on my team, and going to be leaning a bit more back into brand work this year.
Oh, I'm happy to hear
Um,
that.
yes, I think we're, and we'll see obviously how this comes together, but I'm kind of going into this year thinking that like I really want to lean more into TV as well. So I think that's going to be pretty high on my list. I'm in talks with a few brands that are really big partnerships, really exciting stuff that I'm not going to say anything about it yet because nothing's finalized. But
Well, I can't wait to hear.
I'm feeling really excited about that. And honestly, I really want to this year. I started probably 6 months ago setting better like work life boundaries, like setting really going back to some like rules, so to speak, for myself, like not working past a certain time at night, giving myself weekends away, like that mental space away from work, and just like, I don't know, exploring life more outside of work,
I love
which
that.
which sounds crazy because like I feel like I'm doing more now than ever, but there's sort of a certain stability I think that I have now, like mentally as well as tangibly, that I didn't have before kind of getting into this space. So I'm really excited to like, I don't know, explore more hobbies and like plan some fun trips and like be like have human experiences that feels like a little bit of a luxury.
I mean, which it should not be a luxury, but I
It
love that
shouldn't
you're
be,
leaning
but it
into it.
feels like
No, I
it.
know what you mean. Like tonight, my husband's like, because we're like back to watching DVDs. We're going retro. So
Love
he
it.
like
Love
ordered
it.
this DVD that anyway, and he's like, we're like, we finally, our daughter's been sick and she's finally like on the mend. We have a night nanny tonight. He's like, do you want to watch a movie like with the cats? I'm like, yes. Like,
Yes.
I want like, it's just like the little things and sometimes the big things, but
Yeah. And I think that like as women like in business, we put so much emphasis on producing and doing and being like like just like being productive, you
yes.
know? And I think to make that sustainable, you have to also like put value on slowing down and like thinking about how to create systems and a business model and a way of sort of existing within the space that does allow for that. I look at people who burn out, in their 40s, and it's like that's not cool. That sucks. It sucks that we've done that to each other, like as a society and a culture, but also like that we've internalized that to like put our value and our productivity. So yeah, I think I've been doing better about kind of valuing other ways and
Yeah.
creating those systems to make that feasible. And I really don't know that my previous model of just doing private practice, just doing clinical, like it didn't afford for that. And so I feel like I feel proud of myself and also sort of like grateful to like me 2 years ago, like good for her for like joining Master of the Media and like taking this big scary step because it really has, you know, paid off.
I mean, I love hearing that so much. And it's like, I think to your point, like, yes, you are no longer, you know, to some degree, we're always trading some of our time for money, but you're no longer trading 100% of your time for 100% of your income. You have these scalable ways of earning money through brand partnerships where you can make $1,000 an hour, $2,000 in 1 hour. And then you
Yeah.
can take that time. Like, we don't have to be productive 24/7. And that's something that, like, I'm reminding myself constantly because I have like literally a list of like 300 ideas and I'm like, oh, I want to do all those, and I'm like, within the next like 3 to 5 years, like it has to be at a
Yeah.
pace that's actually
Yeah.
feels good.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And it's so cool to see you too. Like, you know, you've started a family and like you're kind of leaning more into also that like, you know, showing up in different ways and creating space for other priorities. And it's really cool to see because I'm just so, it makes me so, I don't know, it makes me feel discouraged when I see women just like in business who are just like working themselves to the bone. And I'm like, I'm so ambitious, but I just don't want to do that. Like I
No,
want to have time and space.
yeah, and it's like there's no, like, I always just am like the people who have to go back to work 6 or 8 weeks after giving birth, like, no, take a full 3 months off, like go, like I just started sort of working 5 days a week, and I say sort of because like there's still like at least half a day like I'm home with Annabelle, and like maybe it'll go back to like 1 or 2 days a week when I get into like slow season, and it's like we have that flexibility.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
love that.
well, Kaytee, where can people find you online?
Kaytee Hadley, my website, my Instagram, it's all just me.
Amazing. Well, and to our listeners, we have an exciting Q&A coming up this week. It's on Thursday, and it's actually going to be a Q&A with myself and with Kaytee and with our physician advisor, Simran Malhotra. And we're going to be talking, we're just going to be answering all your questions about working with brands. So to grab your spot for that, you can go to masterthemedia.co/QA. And thank you so much for everything, Kaytee. This has been so awesome.
Thank you so much for having me and just for, you know, again, being a mentor to me in this space. It's been such a pleasure to like I feel like I study is probably not the right word, but like study from you, but also just like get to know you as a human.
I have loved every minute of it.